Get ready. Get ready. It's time for the Medicare Funcast. Medicare information for those that need it. Music, memories, interviews, and pop culture for those that don't. And now, here's Brian Koulis.
Well, thank you, BC. Brian Christopher. Welcome to the Medicare Funcast. That was Brian Christopher doing my intro. He is nationally known. He does a lot of rock and roll stations, does a voice for a lot of rock and roll stations around the country. So maybe that's where you have heard his voice. He also did some work on The Sopranos show. Whenever you hear them in a car and there's a radio playing, he was featured on some of the episodes. Pretty cool stuff. And I'm your host, Brian Koulis, and this is the first show. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I wish to accomplish. As for me, I've been in the Medicare business for 15 years. Prior to that, I worked in the broadcast field for 30 plus years. I'm the owner and agent of Affordable Health and Life in Central Arkansas. For the first part of the show, I'm going to discuss things related to Medicare, and that is where my experience in the Medicare field kicks in. If you do not have any interest in Medicare, or too young, or really happy with your current plan, stay tuned. As they would say in radio, as I used to say in radio. Stay tuned after the break, and that is where my history as a DJ broadcaster and MC comes into play. In the second half of the show, I will always bring you music, memories, pop culture, all kinds of fun stuff and more. So this show is really a mashup of Medicare and entertainment. That's why I call it the Medicare Funcast. The first half of the show is more serious because we're talking about your health or your parents' health, or if you're a caregiver for someone, it's very important. So we're going to be a little more serious the first half of the show, and maybe even silly and have some fun entertainment things the second half of the show. And I know in this world, especially nowadays, we need to laugh at some things so we can escape for a little bit. I do wish to thank Doc Washburn and Donnie Copeland for including me in the Doc Washburn Plus network. Go to docwashburnshow.com. Check out Doc's show. Of course, he's been around in Little Rock. He's co-hosted the Mark Levin show. And you can listen to Doc, the voice of the resistance, docwashburnshow.com. And check out Donnie Copeland's show, Red Pill Sports, Sports Done Right. Any Beatles fans out there? Wait, I got to just quickly raise my hand. No, I'm not talking about those creepy crawly things. I'm talking about John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And do you know about the Beatle who vanished? Until a couple years ago, I had no idea about this gentleman, but there is a Beatle who vanished. And at the height of Beatlemania in 1964, Ringo gets sick. They're getting ready to go on this huge world tour, and somebody actually replaced Ringo for a while. And you got to check it out after the break. We're going to talk about the Beatle who vanished. What I'm going to do now is talk about Medicare annual enrollment period. So this more than likely will pertain to you. I want to kind of focus on people that already have Medicare. And you're going to start seeing all kinds of junk mail in your box from all these companies. And it's just going to be crazy. You're going to see this in your box. Medicare companies want your business, and they're going to fill up your box with all kinds of things. If you have a Medicare card, this is what we're talking about. It's Medicare Open Enrollment. Again, you're going to see countless TV commercials, radio commercials. You're going to see all the celebrities. It was J.J. Walker last year, all kinds of celebrities, William Shatner, talking about Medicare Advantage, drug plans, and supplements. And what is annual enrollment? It is a time where you can change plans, stay put, compare things, and you can do a lot of things. I'll tell you about those in just a second. I'm here to deconfuse things, and that's what I do with Affordable Health and Life. Here is my contact information, 501-307-1396. Or you can go to MedicareFuncast@gmail.com, email me at MedicareFuncast@gmail.com, or call 501-307-1396. And I do not offer every plan in the area. I currently offer 7 products in Arkansas and surrounding states. You can also contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-Medicare or your local state health insurance program called SHIP, SHIP. You can get information on all your options. And I am not with Medicare. I do not work for Medicare. I'm an independent agent. So with every episode, I'm going to bring you valuable information about Medicare. And again, you can call me at 501-307-1396. If you're in a state that I'm not licensed in, I will bend over backward to find you a reputable agent in your location. And again, we're going to focus on open enrollment period for someone that already has Medicare. And it starts out with October 1st through October 14th every year. That is pre-enrollment period. And I can sit down with you. Other agents can sit down with you October 1st through October 14th. You may have gotten a annual notice of change in the mail, annual notice of change. It's called an ANOC letter. And that is if you're already enrolled on Medicare plan, the drug company supplement Advantage plan is going to tell you about any changes to your plan. Hopefully they're good changes. Sometimes they are surprises, unfortunately. I don't want to laugh at that. But sometimes your plan does go up in price. So that's when you can compare plans. October 1st through the 14th. I can sit down with you. I will have a lot of the new plans ready to go. We can talk about benefits, but I cannot sign you up. I cannot sign you up until the 15th. So we can meet pre-enrollment. We can talk all day about the benefits and things. I just cannot sign you up at that time. October 15th through December 7th, I can sit down with you. Other agent can sit down with you and sign you up for a plan if you're going to make a plan change. And that's when you can switch plans if you so desire, October 15th through December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. Things you can do during open enrollment. Well, one easy thing is if you like your plan, you can stay put. You don't have to do anything. If you want to change plans or look at other Advantage plans, compare your drug plans, and you want to do that, you can change your plan October 15th through December 7th, and then that plan will start January 1st. It'll be January 1st, 2024 of next year. You can make a change from an Advantage plan to another Advantage plan. You can switch drug plans, switch from one drug plan to another drug plan. You can shop around for supplements. Maybe your supplement has just gone crazy, and there are certain requirements where you can switch Medicare supplements. And again, you can see if you can switch your supplement. One good thing about this open enrollment period for 2024, if you take insulin, many brands of insulin will be capped at $35. And again, I'll be happy to do that check with you, other agents in other states. If I'm not licensed in another state, so we'll get you another agent that can help you if your insulin is not on the list of the $35 plan. Maybe you can go to your doctor, get his or her advice, and see if you can switch to a cheaper insulin. A lot of tips on extra help here. Extra help is a buzzword along with some other things. Let's talk about buzzwords for a moment. Buzzwords that they use on a lot of the advertisements. One of them is extra help. Get extra help. If you call us, we'll help you with extra help. Excuse me. Extra help is a program through Social Security, and it helps a lot of people. There's over 3 million people, low and moderate income people in the country that either have it or can qualify for extra help. And extra help helps with your Part D premium. If you have a Part D premium, it could lower that to zero, and it can also do away with deductibles. Let's say you have a $500 drug deductible or a deductible with your Advantage plan. Extra help can eradicate that deductible or premium. And in 2023 now, you can qualify for extra help if you are single and your income is under $21,870. If you're a couple, you may qualify if your income is under $29,580. And then again, If you have less than 16,660 in resources, they don't count your primary residence. Usually can allow you to have one vehicle and some personal possessions, and you can apply with Social Security at ssa.gov. If you're internet savvy, that's a great way to apply. Is at ssa.gov. Usually takes 3 or 4 weeks. You'll get a letter saying yay or nay. If you get a letter saying that indeed you do get extra help, you will see some savings right away. And again, you may do away with deductibles and lower cost. Another buzzword is food. Okay, food is important. A lot of the ads are saying, well, you get a free food or you get a food subsidy. What they're talking about is many Advantage plans now have, as part of their program, where you can go use the member ID card or a separate card, and you can get food at Walmart, Dollar General, things like that. Usually, they don't let you to, they don't allow you to buy cigarettes and liquor and Little Debbie's on that card, but you can buy meat and vegetables and salad and things like that, healthier food. And there's a lot of Advantage plans that now offer that benefit. And they talk about another buzzword on the advertising that I see out there or hear on the radio, over-the-counter benefits. Now, what are those? Well, many of the Advantage plans have a over-the-counter benefit where you can go and they give you a monthly or quarterly amount to buy Band-Aids, lotions, and vitamins. You just show your card at Walmart and Dollar General, and they are going to give you a certain amount, either monthly or quarterly, to buy those items. And it does help out. And free stuff, Jimmy Walker talks about. He keeps talking about food and over-the-counter benefits. William Shatner, many of the celebrities out there, they talk about a extra card that you could spend on dental, vision, and hearing aids. And a lot of the Advantage plans do already come with dental, vision, and hearing aid benefit things built into them, but they do give you an extra card. So let's say, you have a certain amount with your Medicare Advantage plan. They give you a certain amount per year, but maybe you're having a tough year and you may need a few extra extractions, or you had some cavities or things like that. This card will allow you to put a certain amount extra, and it has to be for dental, vision, or hearing. So that's an extra benefit. And again, I'm happy to talk with you about that. And Part B, I'm sorry, I bear the bad news here. Part B usually comes out of your Social Security check. It's been $164.90 this year. Unfortunately, projected to go up almost $10 next year. This is a projection right now from what I've seen. $174.80 a month. Again, not exactly 100%, excuse me, set in stone. It's projected to go up $174.80 for next year. And I know this is it's tough. It really is tough. There are ways that you can get that Part B paid for. Many of the Advantage plans have a Part B give back or buyback. That's another buzzword you see on many of the advertisements. And the Advantage plan will give you some money towards that Part B. And they'll give you a give back or buyback is what they call that. And also you can apply through your local state DHS, Department of Human Resources, in your state DHS office, Department of Health Services in your state, and each one is different. They do have some plans that you can apply for. Partial Medicaid, full Medicaid may eradicate your Part B premium, so you can always check that out. You can call your DHS office or just stop by. And the good thing is, if you're happy with your plan, where we heard that before, if you're happy with your plan, you can keep it. Well, this is true, really is. You don't have to do anything. Just stay the course. And, if you're happy with your plan will send you new ID cards before January 1st, 2024. Now, if you change plans, let's say you switched Advantage plans, you switched drug plans, you're going to get a new card. So what you have to do is, of course, find a local agent like myself that's happy to help you do a switch with your Advantage plan or drug plan, and then you'll get new cards. That plan will start January 1st, 2024. Again, you can switch plans October 15th through December 7th, or if You love your plan, don't do anything. Just don't read your mail, don't take phone calls, don't do anything. Stay the course. I really hope all this helps. Again, here is my contact information: 501-307-1396. I'm Brian Koulis, and MedicareFundcast at gmail.com is the other way that you can reach out to me. And again, if I'm not licensed in the state you're in, do my best to find someone that can help you out. And after the break, really, you don't want to miss this. After the break, get ready to find out about the Beatle who vanished. And thank you so much for watching, and I sure appreciate it. And in just a moment, we'll return with music, memories, pop culture, and more on the Medicare Funcast. I want to thank several sponsors of the show, and one of them is Red River Auto, the big car dealership in the middle of the country. And Mitch Ward and crew believe in freedom, including the freedom to choose a car, truck, van, or SUV online and have it delivered to your front door anywhere in the continental USA. Call 501-381-7807 or visit them on the web at redriverauto.com. And if you're in Central Arkansas and you need auto glass, Mike Seawald at Generations Auto Glass is the man. Mike and his staff will treat you right, and I know that because I've known Mike and his family for close to 20 years, and I highly recommend Mike and Generations Auto Glass. They service body shops and individual customers. Call Generations Auto Glass at 501-708-1420. And we all know about My Pillow and Mike Lindell. And I was honored to meet Mike Lindell in Oklahoma last Christmas. And he's a great guy, very down to earth, very impressed with him. And really, he truly believes in his products. I have My Pillow. I have my sheets, bedding, all kinds of things. I have towels and great things that I have purchased from My Pillow. And you can get big savings with promo code KULIS, KULIS, and you can go to mypillow.com and check this out. Bought these My slippers. I highly recommend. Ooh, they kind of stink. That's my fault, though. My slippers, they are super comfortable in a moccasin style here. I bought pink for my wife. She loves them. I loved them so much. In the spring, I forgot I had them on, and we went out to eat at Chewy's. And my wife, Deanne, says, you still have your My slippers on. I said, okay, that's okay. I don't care. They're so great. I didn't mind wearing them out on the town. So you can wear them anywhere. And believe me, they're super comfortable. And you can go to mypillow.com, use the promo code KULIS, S as in Sam, Koulis. That's my last name. And also, you can go find incredible American-made products. You can find automotive, appliances, coffee, home goods, outdoor items, pet supplies, tools, and more. Mike Lindell promotes American-made products, and you can go to allamericanmade.com. So go to mypillow.com, allamericanmade.com. Make sure you use the promo code KULIS, KULIS, for incredible deals.
We now return to the Medicare Funcast with Brian Koulis.
Well, thanks for joining us again on the Medicare Funcast. I have a special guest today. It's Jim Birkenstadt. He's a rock and roll detective. He's a true Sherlock Holmes gentleman. He's going to tell us what the rock and roll detective entails in just a moment. He digs into lost history and mysteries hidden within decades of popular music. He's an international authority on the Beatles. He's the author of The Beatle Who Vanished. It's a multi-category Amazon bestseller, and it's headed to the silver screen. And he currently serves as co-executive producer, script consultant on the ECOS Studio feature film based upon his book. He has co-authored 3 other books: Black Market Beatles, The Beatles Digest, Nevermind Nirvana, and edited John, Paul, and Me Before the Beatles. And Birkenstadt's books have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Permanent Library and Archives. He also served as an expert on 2 Reels TV series, Celebrity Legacies, and Celebrity Damage Control. His latest book and TV project is entitled Mysteries in the Music, Case Closed. And Birkenstadt consults the Beatles and the estate of George Harrison. And this is really cool, Jim. You served as consultant on Martin Scorsese's HBO winning documentary, George Harrison, Living in the Material World, another classic rock artist. Well, it's great to welcome you to the show, Jim. Good morning. How you doing today?
Good morning, Brian. Thanks very much for having me on, and thanks for that amazing introduction. I think I can retire now.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've done a lot of things. And I found out about you. I went to the Beatles Festival in Newport, Arkansas, a couple
Mhm.
years ago. And one of the booths there had your book, The Lost Beatle,
Yeah, the
about
Beatle who vanished.
the Beatle who vanished. And, you know,
Right.
I was in the broadcasting field for about 30 years. Now I do Medicare plans as well. And I'll spare you. We won't talk about Medicare during this session. This is this is for rock and roll, memories, music. And the second part of the show, we do that type of thing.
Mhm.
But I got a hold of your book. And, you know, I had kind of a big head. I thought I knew a lot about the Beatles and music and things, but I was blown away. I had never heard of Jimmy Nichol. You know, I heard
Mhm.
about Pete Best. I knew who Pete Best, Stu
Sure.
Sutcliffe were, but I never knew about Jimmy. And who the heck is Jimmy Nichol?
Well, that's an interesting point. A lot of people have said that to me, and really the answer of why even the biggest Beatle experts and fans had
Right,
never heard of Jimmy Nichol is because he was only ever a footnote in history. If you looked at history books on music and the Beatles before my book came out, he really garnered only one sentence as Ringo Starr got tonsillitis the day before the Beatles' first ever
right.
world tour, and they
Yes,
found Jimmy Nichol, an unknown drummer, to substitute for him. And so I took that one line and couldn't find anything else out about him. And I thought, gosh, I really am fascinated by this character because I wanted to know who was he beforehand? How did he mount a career where no one knew him, and he got to be chosen by the Beatles to take Ringo's place for 2 weeks on their first ever world tour, which actually took Brian
amazing.
Epstein a year to organize because there was no
Right,
internet. It was all
sure.
written letters, all back and forth. You
Oh
couldn't
my,
even uh,
yeah,
long distance was ridiculous to Australia. So
right.
all that
Yes,
stuff was done by written correspondence. And I looked through really literally hundreds of letters back and forth to do the research on that part of the tour. So I wanted to know also, what was it like for an everyday gentleman like Jimmy Nichol to suddenly go from no one notices you when you walk down the street to now you get out of a limo and girls are ripping your clothes off
yeah, that's
and
right, exactly.
screaming?
And
What was that like? And then also I wanted to then come out with, well, what do you do after those 2 weeks are over? And it took a long time. It took 6 years to find the answers to those three parts of his life and career. But I was fortunate in finding a lot of people that knew him so that I could interview them. And I found a lot of documents and music as well. Literally, he had a huge discography of recordings in his career.
yeah, he was quite an amazing drummer. And here's a photo of him
Mhm.
with the three other Beatles. And
Mhm.
is he actually sitting at Ringo's drum kit there? Is that
He
Ringo's drum
is.
kit?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was at EMI Studios, and they had all the press come in. Apparently, since Jimmy had been playing with Georgie Fame's PR man decided he could get some sort of side media publicity for Georgie as a result. So he ended up calling all the media to show, to come and see Jimmy Nichol. So they
Wow.
had to do a whole photo session, and then they all went away, and then Jimmy did his tryout with the Beatles. And what's amazing is that he already knew all of Ringo's parts. And I describe in the book how it is that a drummer out of nowhere, just through the luck of the draw, that they picked the
Absolutely.
one guy that had already played Ringo's songs as a drummer.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and here's your book again, "The Beatle Who Vanished," and it's just an amazing read, just unreal. And here's another photo. Here's the Beatles, and where did this where's this photo here? Where did this take
This is
place?
a press conference in Hong Kong in
Okay,
June of 1964, where they had already played in the Netherlands, and then they actually had to fly backwards to London and get on a flight that then flew them to Hong Kong with several stops along the way for refueling, something that we don't even think about anymore. They had to stop in 3 or 4 different countries to refuel along the way. And one of the most interesting parts of that flight to Hong Kong
right.
was that it turns out that Tony Sheridan was on board and they brought him up to first class. And the Beatles discovered that Jimmy Nichol had actually played in a band with Tony Sheridan before the Beatles ever played with him in Hamburg.
Oh, wow. So there
Lot
was just a lot
interesting
of connections
connections.
there, huh? A lot of connections
Hmm.
between everybody. It was a
Yep.
small world back then, I guess, in the music business, especially in
Right.
London. Uh,
That's right.
yeah, that's just amazing. So I also read, did he actually wear Ringo suits, and could he fit into
Yeah.
those?
Well, they actually sent a tailor over to his home
Right.
that night because they had less than 24 hours to prepare, and they tried to
Unbelievable.
let out the suits because Jimmy was a pretty muscular, husky guy, and
Right.
Ringo was more of a thin person, still is. And then they also, although he had started to grow his hair out, he didn't quite have the Beatle cut, so hairstylist came over and cut those bangs so that he had more of the Beatle look.
And there and go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, and there's a clip from Jimmy playing with the Beatles. I think it's in the Netherlands, and
Right.
John gives a, I'm not sure what type of glance, kind of an amused glance back at him, at Jimmy playing the drums. And do you
Right.
remember that clip?
I do. I think it's I saw her standing there. It's on YouTube if people want to
Right.
see it. And what's interesting about John turning around, he's not just checking on Jimmy to see how he's doing, but
Okay.
he knew from previous Beatle concerts that and Ringo had the same problem with all the screaming from the girls, it was easy for the drummer to lose the beat of the
Sure.
song. So
Right.
John
Right.
actually turns around with his back to the audience and plays the 2 and the 4 rhythm
Okay.
on the rhythm guitar, which is what locks in with the drummer typically in a rock song, so that Jimmy could get back on the beat and then he turns back around. So it's nice that they were, all kind of keeping an eye on him, and I think they all understood what it must be like to be just a regular person, to be thrust into the pressure of
Absolutely.
not only Beatlemania and the fans, but having to perform with, the biggest band in the world at the time.
And here's Jimmy with the Beatles again. Where was this photo taken place
This
here?
was in the Netherlands, and it was a TV show. They did an interview
Hmm.
in one studio room, and then they walked into another where fans were already seated, and they actually mimed several songs for the fans. And Jimmy actually played along to get a little practice.
Right.
Uh, but I don't think the Beatles were plugged in, but they were allowed to sing live along with their own voices on the songs. So
Yeah,
it was
and then
kind of an interesting sort of performance, sort of half live, half recorded.
now, was Jimmy a little bit more aggressive drummer than Ringo, or how would you describe him in comparison to Ringo?
Absolutely. Jimmy Nichol was a more powerful drummer. People might remember Keith Moon as an example.
Yes,
Jimmy
right.
used to pop his seat up higher and really come down on the drums, like using his full shoulders and arms on the beat, whereas Ringo was content to sort of sit a little lower on the stool and use more wrist and elbow action. So he just wasn't as powerful sounding as Jimmy Nichol was. And of course, Ringo was the drummer that created all these songs. So, it's just a difference in style.
And with all the hysteria, did the fans really notice that Ringo was gone, or were they just kind of all swept into all the emotion and didn't really pay too much attention?
That's a great question, and one that I also wanted to know the answer to. And
Yes.
one of the things that tipped me off that they knew, which sometimes wasn't until the end of the show, was that Paul usually said, "We're sorry that Ringo's not here, but we're happy that Jimmy Nichol's here." And then everyone would give Jimmy like a standing ovation for filling in at
Wow.
these shows. The other incident that was interesting, when I went to the Melbourne archives, I noticed that the woman who was helping me find all these documents from the tour was about the right age of someone who would have been a girl when the Beatles came to Australia. So I said to her, when you saw them on the roof, waving to the fans, and then you saw them in concert, did you know that that was Jimmy Nichol and not Ringo Starr? And this was, I think, in Adelaide at the time.
Sure.
And she said, no, we had no idea. We just had,
Wow.
we saw four guys in suits and we screamed. And in fact, she said, you have to change my name in the book. And I said, why? And she said, because I got in a lot of trouble because the cameras panned down to the crowd and I was the only blonde in this huge crowd of 100-some thousand people.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she said, I was at a very strict Catholic school and they put me in front of the assembly and they, berated me for this, listening to this trash. And
Wow.
she said, I don't want to get in trouble with them. I said, it's been a long time. I think the
Yes.
nuns are gone.
Right. The statute of limitations is long
Yeah,
past, right?
but she was still worried.
And I guess too with social media, I mean, back then they may have seen the Beatles and Ringo on Ed Sullivan, perhaps in a very small black and white TV. So
Right.
again, seeing someone in person, you may really not notice that that was not Ringo.
Yeah, I think that, perhaps that was, of course, just, I believe, broadcast in the US at the time.
Right.
But the Sullivan Show, I think American fans might have been a little more savvy because
Sure.
they were tuned into all the magazines that were coming out on the Beatles. They were watching film clips. I remember as a kid, if you went to the movies, say every other Saturday, there'd be a
Yes.
newsreel, and the newsreel would always tell you what the Beatles are doing. And I just have a hunch that American fans would have caught on that it was Jimmy Nichol had he toured in America.
Right, and they posted or pasted all over the newspapers, and then all the merchandising
Hmm.
on lunch boxes,
Right.
and the Beatles
Good
were
point.
everywhere. So,
Good
and
point,
Bob, I don't
Brian.
know if bobbleheads were back then, but maybe all kinds
Maybe,
of,
yeah.
yeah, dolls and things like that.
Oh, they
And
had those sort of fixed rubber dolls, I
yes,
recall, of
right,
the Beatles. Yeah.
absolutely, they were all over the place. And I was 1964 was the year I was born, so this was just
Oh, okay.
I was just a baby when this all happened. But the month I was born was the month that the Beatles hit the United States. So growing up, I
Mhm.
always remember my older cousins listening to the Beatles and things, and of course became a fan later on as I got older. And
Mhm.
let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Describe for everyone what a rock and roll detective is and what your pursuit in life is. What?
All right. Well, actually, I did start out as an attorney, career wise,
Yes.
but then I think I retired around age 50 or 51, and
Okay.
my wife said, "You better tell the Beatles and Olivia Harrison that you're free now to do some things for them, because I don't want you just sitting around the house." So I had always done these things as a hobby, and even starting back in eighth grade, the first thing I did, if you could call it the beginnings of a rock and roll detective, was
Right.
in eighth grade. The whole Paul McCartney is Dead mystery came out, and I was
Yes.
showing clues and album covers to kids in this one class, and the teacher walked in and asked what we were doing, and I explained it, and he said, "Good, Jim. Next week, I'd like you to give a 1 hour presentation to the class about all the clues, and then come to a conclusion as to whether you
Oh
believe
wow.
Paul's dead or not." So that was really the first time, but I kept going, and even though I was going to school, even though I then became a lawyer, all that, I was always digging into rock and roll history. Whenever a band came out, I always wanted to know who was it that influenced them, and then go listen to that music as well. So I started to write articles, I think, in the late 1980s, and that led to Black Market Beatles, which came to the attention of the Beatles themselves and Neil Aspinall, because they were working on the lost
Yes.
recordings for the anthology. I think in 1998, I wrote to George Harrison and I said, I hear you're working on this All Things Must Pass, doing yet another version of the album, remastered or whatever. And I said, you got to give the baby boomers some extra tracks. And I said, because we bought the LP, we bought the cassette, we bought the CD, we
Right.
bought the 8-track, and now you're asking us to buy it again. I said, the fans need something. So I started working with him on finding lost demos, alternate takes, that sort of thing. And that led to him telling Apple and the Beatles about me. And so they started to hire me as well. And besides working on box sets and documentary research for them, I also started to have other companies contact me. So just recently, I did a documentary for Paramount Plus, which is called I Wanna Rock. And it's about the dreams of 5 different people who wanted to be famous during the 80s period of time when
Right.
big hair heavy metal was a big thing.
Yes.
And so it's just I use the techniques I learned as a lawyer, especially as a trial lawyer, to dig into interviewing people, sort of cross-examining them to get to the real story, trying to see if there are other witnesses that can corroborate them, or other documents that show they're either telling the truth or not telling the truth. And it just has become a real interesting second career for me. And it's more fun, honestly. Lawyers are always fighting against someone. You're either fighting the other attorney, or the judge is
Yes.
mad at you and you're
Right.
fighting with the judge. But
Right.
when you're working on a documentary with someone, you're collaborating, and it's really a lot of fun. Or box set.
Now, in your opinion, the Paul McCartney that's out there still performing, is that the real guy, or is that fake Paul?
No, that's the real Paul.
Okay.
It's interesting because one of the things I thought of, and they're probably the most significant autograph expert of the Beatles in the entire world is a
Yes.
gentleman named Frank Caiazzo. And I asked him to analyze Paul's, and autographs are like fingerprints. And I said, let me see an autograph of Paul before the alleged accident he had, and then let me see one, 5 years later. And literally they're identical. And then another thing that happened, which is just sort of funny, is in 76, when Wings came to Chicago Stadium, I was in the orchestra pit for the show because my mom knew the gentleman who ran the stadium. And Paul and Linda came down the steps to take a break in the middle of the Wings show. And Paul said, "Oh, what do you think?" And I said, "I think it's the best concert I'll ever see in my entire life." So then my buddy was chatting with Paul, and I said to Linda, "Hi, Linda, it's really nice to meet you. I enjoy your photography, etc." And I said, "But can you just tell me what's it like to be married to fake Paul McCartney since the old one died?" And she laughed really hard, and she got the joke. So I
Yes.
think
Oh,
that laughter tells me that she's married to she was married to the same
oh,
Paul.
that's terrific. And I guess going back to Jimmy Nichol. So Jimmy tours with the Beatles. Was it only 13 days that he toured
Yeah,
with them?
right.
Just amazing. And just amazing that here you are, Jimmy, thrown into just the pandemonium of Beatlemania at the height of their fame. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, what do you think it was like for him at that time? Just overwhelming, or I mean, did he think he was possibly going to continue with the Beatles if Ringo did not recover?
I think he really enjoyed the experience while it was happening. And I think that he felt that each day, and if you listen to, there's only bootleg recordings
Yes.
of the performances, but if you listen to them as they progress through that short time period with him, you can tell he's getting better and better, more locked in. You can see in Adelaide, the Beatles are really enjoying themselves. Things
Yes.
are rolling along well. I think that they appreciated him very much because back then there were no out clauses and no insurance for cancellations of a tour. Legal documents just didn't take that into account early on. They were one-page documents. Today they're 100 pages. So the show must go on was the message of the day. And so being able to find someone that good who already just by luck knew all of their parts was really quite amazing. I think as time went on, for Jimmy anyway, it became a bit of a double-edged sword. He maybe had thoughts that they were bonding as friends and they were doing
Yes.
well in the show, but I don't think he realized that Ringo was like a brother, and brothers are higher up on the pecking order than a new friend, and they weren't going to just throw Ringo down the tubes. Ringo is a very good drummer and and the great thing about Ringo is he plays to the song.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's why
Right.
these Beatles songs are so great. There are things that a lot of people don't notice about his drumming that if you focus on, you're like, oh my God, this is a great idea for a fill and those sorts of things. So I don't think he realized that. And as a result, afterwards, I think he tended to sour on the experience because number one, they didn't keep him. And number
Yes.
two, he suddenly had to create his own band. He had to finance it, and it was expensive. But at the start, everybody wanted him. He was doing, I think he had lined up by July, a month later, over 100 one-nighter
Oh,
dates
wow. Wow.
for Jimmy Nichol and the Shub Dubs, which was the name of
The,
his band.
the Shub Dubs. Love it.
Yeah. But by the end of that year, the end of 64, he had basically he had such a high spending rate versus what they were bringing in as the media died down for the whole fifth Beatles story in the news. Fewer and fewer people would come to the gigs, so now you're just playing little tiny clubs. And his band was made up of session players, and session players were making 3 times that of a typical British factory worker at the time,
Absolutely right.
and
Yeah.
they couldn't afford to be away and lose that valuable income. And also, if they had wives and kids, that was another reason why they couldn't be away that long. So the whole thing kind of fell apart at that point, and he tried again in 65, and he ended up bankrupt, no band, no work, divorced, and he had to pick himself up again, which he did.
Now here's this famous photo of Jimmy at the airport. I think this is right after his time with
Hmm.
the Beatles ended. That's an
Yep.
amazing photo. There by himself in the air. What airport was that? In Australia?
It was in Melbourne,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
And in fact, I went there and someone took me there for a little tour, and I said, "Where'd all the chairs go?" And he said they just moved them all out, and actually they built a bigger airport, and that airport where you see Jimmy is now for cargo planes, which is probably why they don't need the chairs anymore. So he was he was going through so many things were going through his head, like, what did I just experience? This was like uh, almost like PTSD. What
Oh,
did I just
absolutely.
go through? This 24-hour a day
Amazing.
Beatlemania life, and now suddenly I'm here in this quiet airport all alone, and I have to think about what am I going to do when I get back home. There were some other issues. Jimmy wanted to go back to Sydney and meet a singer there, and she had talked about flying back to the US with him and having him record at Capitol Records, and he wanted to do that, but Brian Epstein said, no, your ticket is a one-way ticket back to London. So
Wow.
they
Wow.
had a few differences there once
Sure.
Brian came back and rejoined the tour with Ringo.
Right. Amazing stuff. And it's the Beatle who vanished. And where can we find your book? Amazon and of course
Amazon,
other.
and if people, and of course Walmart, other places online. And also, if you want signed copies, you can go to thebeatlewhovanished.com, and I'm happy to sign and send out copies.
Oh, that's absolutely great. And without giving away a lot of your book, Beatle Who Vanished, where else did he vanish to? Didn't he go down to South America for a while? And
He was thought to have gone to South America. What he
okay,
first did was he got a phone call out of the blue, which took him to Gothenburg, Sweden,
yes,
and he joined an instrumental band similar to our Ventures, and they were called the Spotniks. And he toured and recorded several albums with them, and was a full member. He wasn't just like a substitute
sure.
for 2 years, and that ended one night in Mexico, where the Spotnik's manager fired him because he was kind of wasted and he fell off the drum stool in the middle of the show and passed out.
Oh, the
Um,
rock and roll lifestyle, huh?
yeah, he was starting it. Anyway, the rest of the Spotniks were very clean cut, and the only thing they did was
Right.
drink a beer occasionally. So I asked some of the Spotnik members, well, where did Jimmy go after that? Because again, each time I found him, he would then vanish again, and then I'd have to find out where's the next place I need to go digging. And they had no idea, but they said, we think he went to South America because he liked bossa nova and pretty women. That was their answer.
Hey,
So nothing wrong with that. So, but in fact, he stayed in Mexico, and so he's been around a lot of countries, and he has disappeared again. And he was back in London for a while, and he disappeared, I believe, in 2008 or 9, something like that. And I'm actually working with an online detective to try to locate him again, because I thought it would be fun to do a follow-up with the book, an extra chapter, maybe a year or so from now. And so I'm in the process of trying to find out where he might be today.
so all indications is that he is still alive.
I would say yes. I think that if Jimmy were to die, even if he's under an assumed name or
Yes.
whatever, he would have told some people wherever he is living that he had been a Beatle at some point. And I think it would leak out to the media. When some of the most obscure people with Beatle connections have died, like one of their limo drivers or something,
Oh,
it
sure.
becomes international news. So
Right.
I,
Amazing.
I know another thing is that I know from this computer detective work that he is still receiving every month a pension from the British government, like our Social Security. And all they know is that it's being sent out of the country of England every month, but they can't tell me where it's going.
Okay. That's
So that would
interesting.
make him alive, I think.
And looks like you have a movie in the works about this book, or
There
what's
is a
going on with
movie in
that?
the works. It's been delayed by COVID and now these
Yes,
2 strikes. And
absolutely.
and so and also I think along the way there was a script. Well, there was a script written that did not get approved. So now I think after the strike there will be an all-out effort to try to find a new screenwriter and to start up the process. But it is officially in development.
Oh, that's great. And again, this is The Beatle Who Vanished, and that's going to be a fantastic book. I've read it. I sat down. I think
Thank
I
you.
read it in just half a day or so. I just couldn't put it down.
Thanks for watching the Medicare Funcast with Brian Koulis. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It's been fun. We'll see you next time.